Far to the north, beyond the spine of the world, there's a frigid expanse few dare to explore. The lands of Icewind Dale have been locked in everlasting winter. O'Reel, the Frostmaiden, has turned the realm into her icy sequester, and the denizens of 10 towns are encumbered by a siege of the elements. For 2 years they have not seen the sun. Only the light is from the auroras shining down, or the glow of a full moon. They call it the everlasting Rime, and no one knows why the Frostmaiden has imposed her will on them, or why the other gods refuse to intervene. But not everyone is discouraged, for there are those who will never let a crisis go to waste. I'm Zach, and this is Failed to Crit. Welcome back. This video we will be going over Chapter 1 of the Frostmaiden, in a series I call Let's Runs. These are designed to be a study guide and a brainstorm for DMs looking to run the campaign. There will be massive spoilers ahead, as well as ideas on where to expand play. My intent is to give inspiration to new DMs, so if you are a vet and have something to add, please leave it in the comments. As for now, grab your book, follow along, or check out the D&D Beyond modules. They have a ton of great tools for aspiring DM. Okay, let's roll. So, the start of each session should be dramatic and enticing. We really want to hook the players in. Your first session is extra important, so I often take a little leeway with how it starts. Kind of a cinematic, if you will, to just jump them right into character. For starters, we need to figure out where we are and how we got there. Your party might be from the north, or they might have ran to the north. But for story continuity, the troubles in Dale have been going on for about 2 years, so if they manage to get through the pass, that would be very rare. So let's go over the towns and see what feels like the right place to jump in. And let me just say, this is by no means a knock on Chris Perkins and his team. There isn't enough time or book space to describe each town as they would have envisioned it. And if this was in the book, it might stipend our imagination and kind of make us lazy with our descriptors. I want to try and stick to details based on canon if I can. If you like them, add them to your game. If not, or you've got a better idea, please share them in the comments. So, the key to 10 towns is having 1 or 2 details that really make each town feel different, and drawing on those details every time you revisit or reference a place. With that in mind, we're going to start with alphabetical order. Bremen, on page 27, was founded by a dwarven prospector, so it stands to reason that most of the buildings would have a dwarvish style. Thick stone, cut from the nearby cliffs or quarries, sharp angles, hard, precise edges to the building, favoring octagons or pentagons over square rectangles. Necessity would still pitch the roofs at a steep angle so as to not have snow build up, but the beautiful stonework would still stand out. Dwarves lived well into their 300s, so spending a decade or 2 on design of a building would be well worth it. On page 32, we got Bryn Shandir. Bryn sits atop a rolling hill in the middle of the frozen plain. Seeing its outline from miles out would be a welcome sight, but also lead to some frustration, as its size would make it feel closer than it is. It would still be hours till you were somewhere warm. Bryn started as a single cabin on a hill, a rest stop for traders that blossomed to the largest city in Icewind Dale. Giant walls sprang up from the snow to protect the wealth and the growing population. The walls have repelled orcs and barbarians and even frost giants. I would use these walls as the biggest descriptor of the city. Giant frozen timbers placed in 2 rings set 10 feet apart, and in between them packed ice, hard as diamonds. Beyond them, a sense of peace and comfort that the walls provide, even if it's misplaced. The walls act as a windbreak, a lookout, and even a status for the wealth they protect. People of Bryn would take a lot of pride in the walls, and the banners and sigils that they adorn with it. So with that in mind, the city should feel more hodgepodge. The streets were made incidentally as the towns kind of sprang up at random, each trying to attract the money of traveling merchants. A real common theme here, mostly human built and designed, with some elven and dwarvish styles, only to just break up the dull scenery. Page 37, we've got Caer Dinevel. So Caer Dinevel started as a fortress built by the Dinev family. Originally from Cormyr, a land in central Faerun known for its prosperity and its warcraft. As such, the fortress would have been incredibly well designed for defense, even if it was 400 years old. The fortress sits on a raised peninsula jutting out into the lake. Its presence is seen from the land or from boats that come into dock. The town is newer as the settlers came along after the town was set ablaze by orcs. Slightly further north, we have Caer Konig. This is on page 47. So, Caer Konig is only a few hours' walk from Caer Dinevel, and it clearly was not built by those specializing in warcraft. All that's left now is rubble, and that might loom over the townsfolk when you talk to them. I happened to be in Croatia as a kid right after their war, and seeing their buildings destroyed, it just kind of weighs on you. And it's a reminder that war is devastating, and it can kind of give you a chip on your shoulder. These town folks might always have an eye out for orcs, or be waiting for the shoe to drop. Now that can be hard to roleplay, but it's really easy to narrate when you talk about the vibe the party gets from the town. In contrast to the raised keep are a row of luxurious homes with second-story balconies. This is the first mention in the book of these style villa homes, and they would have had a beautiful overlook of the lake years ago, but now the balconies are just covered in snow. Dunnigan's Hole on page 53. This town sprang to life because a guy had a fishing spot he really loved. He loved it so much he built a house, and then more fishers joined in. There really isn't much to do here but fish, and I could kind of see this place having a man cave kind of vibe. You know, the town's buildings being very basic, just fishing shacks, with the only decorum being trout or fish related. You know, kind of like a cheesy 1980s bait shop with signs saying, "I'd rather be fishing." The other stuff you might see in town would be poles, you know, out of the ground with half-made fishing nets, barrels with fishing rods in them, other boat parts scattered outside the houses. There probably isn't much more than simple fishing shacks. Add to that the isolation and inbreeding in this town, it kind of gives it a real backwoods feel. On page 59, we've got East Haven. So East Haven is like a real-life tombstone. Its founders were thieves. The thievery gave the town a culture of profiteering. The town is constantly reinventing itself. The city is huge. Its streets feel more planned than anywhere else in Dale. You would have gambling, street hustlers, saloons, pleasures of the flesh, anything to get every last coin from a traveler. And if that wasn't enough, the town even allows pickpocketing. The architecture of this place would be built to catch the eye, or maybe even built to spite the rest, in a one-upmanship style that you kind of see with casinos. This city is very diverse. You've got tieflings, drow, duergar, and basically any humanoid is welcome. The city has a lot of flavor, and despite the cold, the city should feel more active than the rest. Goodmead on page 72 with a shout out to Ch1's. Goodmead was settled by Ch1's and people of Villon's Reach, and even though this was 400 years ago, that flair would still be under all of that snow. Carvings of dinosaurs and serpents on the houses or over doorways. There's a great wyvern engraved on the mead hall. You'd have bold pinks, and greens, and blues and orange accents painted on each of the houses. Now, even though those have long since faded into pastels, it would still give a soft shout out to the Ch1 heritage. Nestled on a forest, short squat buildings made of mostly wood, with so much of the town's business being mead, the town literally is abuzz with the sound of bees. And most of the buildings burning wood constantly just to keep the bees in the greenhouses warm. So little smoke chutes give away the town's location for miles. Lonely Wood on page 79 is nestled into the forest, not only with its buildings, but with its lifestyle. The town was settled by artisans from Erms-la-Pure. It's kind of an obscure reference, I had to look it up. But they brought their creativity to the north, taking to carving large log totems and other scrimshaw work. So I would envision the trees next to the houses having fantastically carved designs. When the lake isn't frozen, most of the denizens are building boats. So another feature you might see in the town is all the craft station for boat parts, right? Large engraved sterns or keels. Lonelywood has also attracted those with more of a shady past. Looking to get away or just a safe home base, this whole town would have a ask me no questions, tell me no lies kind of feel to it. A lot of skeletons in the closet here. Targos on page 86 here. Targos is a grand fishing village, or it was. Now the harbor is frozen over. But a majority of its 1,000 residents still make a living pulling trout from the lake. So I'm sure it's quite a spectacle to watch all these fishers haul their smaller boats across the bay and by hand each morning. Targos is walled in, but the walls really pale in comparison to Bryn Shander. The vibe here would be tough and salty, the Rime making life much harder for the large fishing fleets that are frozen in the harbor. And the walls act as a constant reminder that danger is always just outside the gates. Targos is a long way from a forest, and with fishing taking up most of the wood, I envision the town having to be very resourceful with their building materials. Half-sunken houses that you step into, half stone, half wood to cut down on material. The hulls of old ships no longer seaworthy are turned over and used as roofs. Page 93, we've got Tourmaline. Kalashite artisans and craftsmen founded Tourmaline and made it the most picturesque of all 10 towns. The buildings are adorned with Kalashite culture, jinns and tigers, etc. Primary occupation here is a mine, so the stonework of the town should be notable. But the craftsmanship didn't account for the gale force winds coming off the lake. The wind chill is a constant agitator while in town. So, now we've got a vibe for the 10 towns, I've decided on Bryn Shander as a starting location, simply because it has the most to offer my players and I like its central location. But you can use any of the 10 towns to start in the first mission, it's very flexible. For me, I'm pulling an old DM trick and a personal favorite of mine, the failed teleport. This can be a great story hook, as well as a chance to showcase how terrifying magic can be. Now for my game intro, it'll run something like this. The crackle of magic and blinding flash throws you off balance. You crash into hard debris. It takes a moment for your senses to respond. The icy wood that moments before was a barrel or a crate is now sticking to your bare hands. The air stings as you inhale your first frozen breath. The bargain that the wizard was charging for a teleport to Erebor was not such a deal. You look around at the party, each upended to a similar shivering fate. Then you hear it. The grasping gargle of the wizard who materialized halfway in the wall. The better part of his face fused to stone, his eyes meeting yours for the last moments of life leaving his body. This terrible sight distracting you only momentarily as you're reminded by the sub-zero temperatures. This is a strange, dark city, cold bricks and white snow. At the end of the alley, the flicker of lights in a window. The party gathers and makes haste for the front of the building. The North Look, the sign reads as you push your way in, and the door slams open, weighing less than you thought. All the heads turn to see 4 people who are clearly from out of town, dressed for a climate that was many leagues south of here. Well, get in, get warm, I'm sure you have quite a story to tell. One of the patrons greets you. Welcome to Bryn Shander, or should I say, welcome to Icewind Dale. Now for my players, it will take them a few minutes to ask questions, get their bearings, buy some winter clothes, etc. Then I will have Lynn Trollbane invite them to their first quest. Obviously, with this entrance, it gives her an excuse to proposition the party for work. Now, it should go without saying that your game can and will be very different. I just want to give you some ideas on how to expand the setting, maybe get your imagination moving. The book has Lynn draw the party into the fireside chat by happenstance. She's looking to solve some murders and is too old to do it herself. I like the rumor mill they have and the scene they paint, and I may incorporate it in if it feels natural as my players get settled into the tavern. The premise of the first mission is to run around 10 towns, tracking the killer. The book lays out a good reason why this person is guilty. It's more of a hunt than a murder mystery. The real reason for the quest, and its genius, is to see a few of the locals, set the framework for travel. Since the quest is so straightforward, use your game time to describe the setting. I would try to have them go to 2 or 3 towns before picking up a solid lead or a hot trail. This way the party can pick up rumors for missions to come, meet locals, really lean into the difficulty of travel too. The vast ice flows, the wind shaping snow like bleached sand dunes, the auroras and even the Frostmaiden's rock flying across the night sky, her magic literally holding the sun at bay. There's cold in every breath, ice is in your hood, each step is its own burden. The next video will go over the second starting quest and all the rumors for the 10 towns. So, how did we do? Let me know what you think in the comments. Please bonus action the like button. Remember, the more people we get excited about D&D, the more players and DMs are at your table. So like and subscribe. I'll try to roll better next time, guys. See you then.